Welcome to another session of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's jump right in here. I think I've said it a few times. I live in Florida, where we have this is a very red state, and I live in one of the redder counties. And one party rule is not necessarily always a good thing. The only problem we have is we only have one sane party. And so we're sort of, whether we like it or not, we're stuck with it. And I want to talk now about this plan our governor has. And I'm against this plan. I know I'm going to be in the minority here. Anybody views this from Florida, I'm sure that they're going to maybe even put down some nasty comments. I'm a big boy. I can deal with it. Here's the headline. Ron DeSantis announces plan to eliminate property taxes for 92% of Florida homes. Now, how they're going to do this is they have this measure they want to get put on the ballot, and they want to raise the homestead exemption for people who own and live in their homes to $250,000 and eventually up to $500,000. And the one thing that I don't see in this, because let me say, tax relief is always something that people are looking for because people's budgets are stretched out. But do you think for 1 minute that people are still not going to pay? I mean, see, I don't hear any talk about the spending. And so either the spending is going to have to be so drastically cut in all these counties who can no longer collect all this tax money, or they're going to get the money somewhere else. And from what the article says, a lot of it's going to be borne by businesses. Oh, yeah, great thing for businesses. They're having a hard enough, especially small businesses, which are the majority of businesses out there. They're already having a hard time staying in business, and they don't need this. Now, I need to be fair about this. I should state that I'm a disabled veteran, and specifically because of my disability, I don't pay property taxes. I'm exempt from them, just like all other disabled veterans here in Florida and in many other states as well. And so you see, with this, assuming that this plan passes, and it probably will, because people today, they get snookered. This is tax relief. Obviously, you're going to have way more money in your pocket. Oh, yeah, right. If you believe that, you're a fool. You're an idiot, because it doesn't work that way. They're going to get this money. The problem is corruption. We need to root out the corruption. If you don't think that what we're seeing on a national level isn't also happening in these local jurisdictions, then I don't know. You're probably part of your brain is not functioning properly. Let me put it that way, because sadly, there are no ethics anymore. There are no morals. It's all everyone for themselves. And when these politicians get in there, they don't care about their constituents. Or should I say the only constituents they care about are those that are their staunchest supporters and who they sort of have in their back pocket. And so, see, I just don't think this is going to bode well. I want to know how come in all of these articles they don't talk about where is the money that they're not going to collect because of this. Where is that money going to come from? Well, let me say, my house is valued right now at above the $250,000 threshold. Do I think it should be that high? No, but with all the inflation and everything, property values have gone up. And so, assuming I was not a disabled veteran, I would still be paying some property taxes on the value above the $250,000. But of course, I don't know. It doesn't say how long the $250,000 will be in place, but they do say that eventually they're going to raise it to $500,000. Well, that money has to be replaced. There's no such thing as being free. Somebody somewhere is paying for it. Now, I agree with the governor that here, let me read this. I think a lot of people need relief, DeSantis said. I think a lot of people have been wondering, where can we get it? We're showing a pathway to be able to get that done that I think is going to be transformational for people. Yeah, it's going to be transformational from paying one tax to another tax, and I guarantee you whatever that other tax is, it's going to be more than you're paying now, because that's what governments do. They lie to you, they cheat, they steal. And yet people keep falling for these tricks. I guarantee you this thing is probably going to pass. People are really going to think, oh my God, we're going to save all this money. Yeah, right. Boy, people are foolish. They are really foolish. What's going on in our government right now is, you know, I said this before, I'll say it again. If somebody would have told me when I was, let's say, in my 20s or 30s, some of the things that I'm currently experiencing in real life right now, people would have thought I was nuts and needed to go see a psychiatrist. That's how bad things have gotten. And it's this foolishness here. You know, it says here, assessments on businesses would be limited. The plan also would not kick in for 5 years for newcomers to the state who arrive after January 1st, 2027. Okay, so, you know, that's all a positive thing, okay? But again, when you take money out, money that is budgeted, and let's talk a minute about ad valorem property taxes. The way the situation is set up is that the taxes that are collected should equal the budget. And yet that does allow for some discretionary funds to be put aside for a rainy day or emergency or whatever. But so the county commissioners need to know what the assessed value is when they do their budget, because that's what determines the millage rate that are going to determine the amount of each individual's or each parcel's property taxes. Now here, where I live in Florida, there's a tremendous amount of vacant lots and land. I assume that they'll still be paying property taxes. And again, they will probably, the millage rate that they pay will obviously go up drastically. Because again, do we really expect these county commissioners to make huge decreases in their budget because the governor's decided that people are going to have this added property exemption? I don't know. And to me, it's just alarming how foolish people are. You know, I watch many of these commercial advertisements, and let me say, many of them are coming from people on the right. And, you know, often they'll tell people, you know, you're getting this free, you're getting that free, you're getting something else free. Well, let me tell you, you're not getting nothing free. You're paying for it all. But people fall for this nonsense. And they keep falling for it. They never learn their lesson. And right now, Americans are tapped out. I really think there's a collapse coming to this country because spending is just out of control everywhere. And unfortunately, so much of that spending is going to fraud. It's not going to any, if you ride out there on the roadways, roads are falling apart, buildings are falling apart, government buildings I'm talking about are falling apart. There's so much stuff that needs to be done. You have to wonder where all this money is going. I get frustrated when I see them spending all these tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on these cosmetic things. This is Florida. We get hurricanes. All that cosmetic stuff that they put there in the ground, it's all gone next hurricane. And it doesn't have to be a powerful hurricane either. So why they want to keep wasting money, I don't know. I don't get it. I will tell you one thing. And this goes into the topic of hurricanes. Hurricane Ian was a big hurricane, but it was a couple of years ago. And still, there's so much of the rebuilding hasn't been done. And the problem is getting the funds from the federal government. Initially, the problem was this is a red state and we were dealing with a blue president in Biden. But since Trump has come into office, I haven't seen any big increase in getting things fixed. I mean, we have, I'm going to say in the part of the county that I live in, we have 3 hospitals. One of them's completely offline. It got damaged sufficiently enough that it had to shut down after Ian. It's still shut down. And I want to say about a month ago, I stopped at, saw one of the workers in one of the parks, and there were like 2 areas where you could park here. The rest of this park is still fenced off because of the damage from Hurricane Ian. So I decided to talk to this worker, and I asked him, I said, what's the problem in getting this park fixed and open? People enjoy going to the park. And he said that the federal government has told them that you better rebuild it right this time because we're not going to keep paying for it every time there's a storm. And, I'm kind of glad to see that. We need to learn to live within our means. I know it's not going to happen, and that's why a collapse is inevitable of this, because we just can't live within our means. Nobody can. People are being forced to tap out their credit cards and or personal loans or whichever way they can get money, because inflation is through the roof. And I don't know how you can solve that. People talk about, when they talk about inflation, they talk about the rise in prices, but that's not inflation. The definition of inflation is and always has been an increase in the money supply. Prices going up is the result of inflation, but it's not the inflation. And we have to keep increasing our money supply every year because we've got these huge increases in spending. And we're now finding out why there is so much spending, because most of it's going into some corrupt politicians' pockets. As many referrals as Congress has done to the DOJ for office holders' criminal conduct, there have been virtually no arrests. And in these cases, what's sad is Congress holds the hearings, they issue subpoenas, they have all the evidence put together for the DOJ. I don't know what the DOJ is doing. Well, actually, I think I do know what they're doing. I suspect they're doing nothing. And if anybody asks them about it, they'll say we don't comment on ongoing investigations. And they'll probably put on the file ongoing and throw it in a filing cabinet, and that's where it's going to sit. But people are willing to accept that, apparently, because I don't see, I see very little public outcry for all of the things that people are suffering today. And it's only going to get worse from here on out. It's going to progressively get worse. And I don't know how it ends. I really don't. But I fear for this country. I fear for our future. And all we can do is do our best and hope everything does work out fine. I hope I'm wrong in so many things, but yet the more I learn and the more I read and the more I see, the more I'm convinced that we're probably doomed. We're probably doomed because we've allowed it to get too far out of control. And with that, I want to wish you a good day. Stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. Bye-bye.